Hey everybody, welcome to another entry in the Hyrule Compendium, and it's our Inspired by Zelda week over at zeldadungeon.net, and so we're talking about games that are inspired by Zelda. Today on the Compendium, we're discussing Darksiders II.
So Darksiders, the series, it has a special place in my heart. It's one of my favorite franchises. I made a website at one point called Darksiders Dungeon.
That's great.
I met a lot of the creators of the game, and they are very much inspired by Zelda. So it is very much a Zelda game, and it has a lot of core Zelda elements in it, I'd say.
I was just recently replaying it, and I was noticing that a lot of the dungeons, they don't have the sort of non-linear like progression in some of the like more classic Zelda, where it's like, okay, which room do I go to? But they add in a lot of extra rooms you can explore and a lot of extra dungeons you can explore, and you can go to them at any time. While they have a linear progression, they have a sort of non-linear like bonus on top of it.
Right.
So it's kind of blending kind of newer Zelda with older Zelda ideas.
I love the just the look of a lot of the dungeons, and they're very like in the first area, the Maker's Realm. There's the Cauldron, which is like the fire-based dungeon, the Fire Temple, and then you go to the Forge or whatever, the Fjord, and that is the water-based dungeon.
Oh yeah.
So it's got the elemental like themes to it.
Yeah.
And I love just when you're navigating the puzzles, it's very much like a Zelda game where it's like, why is this giant ball sitting right here? Oh, there's a hole where this ball fits in. Like,
right. Yeah, they're very, like, instead of a block pushing, it's ball pushing. You know, they, like, twist it a little bit, but it's, like, I already feel right at home jumping into this game.
Yeah, but it's got that, like, sort of fantasy element. Like, there's no natural location that looks like this. It's specifically designed, oh, this is going to be a ball-pushing puzzle room, or we're going to, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the same thing when you're playing Zelda, where you're like, did Ganondorf design this or something? Like, so you're like, this is really going to trip him up. This one's hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, the dungeons they are super thematic. That's one thing I was really enjoying, was they're tied into the world really well. Like, they feel natural. Like, they don't have a Zelda thing where it's like you go in and then it's like fade to black and then you're just, you know, it feels like, oh, I just entered this area and I'm in a dungeon.
It's like in real time too in some cases.
They kind of hide the loading screens. But yeah, then they also like give them a really strong purpose as to why they're there.
Oh, the dungeons themselves?
Yeah, which Zelda does too, but sometimes it's kind of random.
Yes.
But this one, almost everyone felt like it had a purpose. And then sometimes there's like stories that play out throughout the dungeon that I liked, that really tied it into like the game story. They felt part of the world, not just, oh, I'm in this maze now, you know.
The corruption has burned off like rain on a hot forge. You were right. I was wrong.
Sometimes in this game, you gotta go somewhere to complete an objective, and I'll be heading towards it, and then I go through a door, and then all of a sudden I'm in a dungeon, and I have to like traverse it just to get to another part of the overworld. And then there are parts of it that are, like we mentioned, additional. Like, there was just a boss that you could even miss, but you had to go through part of this dungeon to get to another part of the overworld.
Yeah. This, I would say, blasphemy here, but does it better than Zelda in that there's a lot of dungeons.
Yeah.
And like a third of them, I would say, maybe even half of them are, you can never step foot into them and still beat the game. You can go to some of these optional dungeons, but you are going to get your butt kicked because you are super underpowered. But if you want to grind it out, you probably could. It's hard.
Two of the other optional dungeons I did, one was like for a side quest, so you kind of had a story and a goal while you were there, and then another one, the boss of the dungeon was this construct you were trying to kill, and he kept showing up to kind of like taunt you and make new challenges for you throughout the dungeon. So even in this like optional side quest dungeon, they gave like a story and a meaning to it.
So I guess let's segue to in the dungeons. There are a few items that you get. Like one of the items is the death grip. It's basically a hook shot.
Yeah, it works a little different, but it's basically that.
More like a grappling hook, I'd say probably. But you can grab things. You can use it as like a swing, like to glide over to locations.
They also have like the bomb flower things. You don't get those, but you can, you hook shot them, throw them on stuff you got to blow up. Very Zelda.
There's also the soul splitter, which there's been elements of that in Zelda 2. Like think of Majora's Mask, where you can use, what song do you play where you like create statues of yourselves?
Oh, the LG of Emptiness.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't even really thinking of that. Yeah, I was like that one and the portal gun. Just that's a clear portal reference there. We're seeing these in a way that we haven't fully seen in Zelda before, but like the way they implement it is then it still feels like a Zelda style puzzle when you're solving this stuff. Okay, so we've got all that, and then there's collectibles.
Yes, I mentioned the collectibles early on. There's like the boatman coins, whatever the coin. They remind me of like Koroks or like Gold Skulltulas. They're everywhere type deal. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, because there's the Book of the Dead pages, and like you can like unlock areas with those, right?
I've only unlocked one in my recent playthrough, and it was just like a little tomb that had a bunch of chests and gear and stuff.
Okay.
But it did make the reward feel very rewarding.
Yeah.
Because I went in this area and just got to spend some time like, riches, all these riches. So
yeah.
They split them up so that there's like enough of each everywhere. And then they each kind of have somewhat of a unique reward, as opposed to collecting 900 of one thing.
I know I've said this before, and I love it, but I think Darksiders is like, to me, one of the most definitive Zelda games there could be.
Yeah.
Like, I almost wish Nintendo made it.
For me, if it had all these same elements, it would obviously not be exactly the same if it was a Zelda game. But if it was basically reskinned as a Zelda game, it would be like my favorite video game ever made.
Yeah. That being said, though, it's not a Nintendo game.
No.
And it clearly shows. And I especially see that in the remake, or the HD remaster version of it. It is very, like, if Nintendo was making Darksiders 2, they would not release it as it is now.
Right.
Because it's not as polished as any Zelda game is. With Nintendo, every Zelda game is going to be, like, frame rate issues once in a while.
It's constant, and the one I'm playing. I didn't remember that the first time I played, but
yeah, it's like the camera's always jiggling a little bit. It makes me nauseous a little bit sometimes watching.
I had mine crash on me like twice just during a fight.
Audio just cuts out for minutes.
Yeah, I looked that up. That's a common issue too. That
was an issue back when on the original release as well.
Okay.
So it's like stuff like that. It takes you out of the game a little bit. I also feel that Darksiders 2, I think they were making a game and then realized we don't have time to finish this game. And it kind of shows towards the end of the game. Because there's 4 realms, and the first realm was amazing. The Maker's Realm, I think there's all the good stuff we talked about. Then the second world, the City of the Dead, is one notch below, but I think it's still really good.
Yeah.
And then there's these other worlds at the end where you're expecting more of the same. I truly think they made the Maker's Realm, and they were the idea was they were going to replicate this with 4 areas, and then they just didn't have enough time.
That Maker's Realm area is so good, though.
Yes.
And you can go back to it. There are areas in that where you need, like, the portal gun.
Some of the later weapons. Yeah, there's some Zelda elements of, how do I solve? We were trying to solve a puzzle with a bomb, with the bomb flower. We were like throwing bomb. I'm like, we can't do this. You can't reach it with the bomb. And then we're like,
You need the soul splitter. What do you guys think? Have you played this game, for one?
you should play it. I mean, and don't play it. There's two different mindsets I think you can go into Darksiders 2. Number one, you can go into it thinking this is a very Zelda-like game created by fans of Zelda.
Right.
And it's well polished, has awesome lore, and enjoy it for what it is. Don't think of it as... There's some people, I think, who think of, well, I like Zelda, and this is a Zelda ripoff, and I don't want that.
Oh, yeah, no.
Don't think of that. No, that's not this.
It's its own thing, and you should, well, you can take what you want out of it, but when I play it, I can feel that the creators love Zelda.
Yes.
And I connect with it because I'm like, oh, I'm like the guys who made this, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great game. Let us know if you have played it, if we've convinced you to play it. Let us know some of your other favorite Zelda-like games too. There's a lot out there, but this is the best one.
Yes.
All right, thanks for watching.